one expects what's coming to XRP. And again, it's been a massive update for XRP. I've been basically streaming daily. We have been seeing tons of updates for XRP, which is great news. I haven't stopped at all with the news cycle, which is good because it means there's a lot of news. And when I told you guys on my channel, when there is a lot of news, it also means that there's a very high chance that XRP goes up, because XRP gets more trending, the price comes up naturally, guys. Remember when I tell you that. So we do have more news today, and this news is about, well, XRP. Again, we got the SEC government has filed a status report with Court of Appeals, noting that the parties have filed a joint stipulation of dismissal of the appeals, and the stipulation remains pending and therefore awaiting approval by court. So there could be the XRP case dismissal, like, you know, fully over. And I know, guys, we've been hearing for a long time for it to be over. Now this would be the final step to make it end.
Big update regarding the SEC
Appeals
versus the Ripple case. It almost feels like we just cannot escape this case, because the SEC Gov has filed a status report with the Court of Appeals, noting that the parties have filed a joint stipulation of dismissal of the appeals, and that the stipulation remains pending and therefore awaiting approval by the court. So this case is still just going through the tedious details, if you will, and, you know, we're still waiting for it to wrap up officially. Now, the reason why we're still focused on this, and I would assume that by the end of this month, we should have this all put behind us officially. The main reason why we still focus on this is because of what we are witnessing around the altcoin market. And what exactly is that? Well, it's the push on instant.
Well, I feel like a lot of people still blame the SEC lawsuit for why the price has not went up. My personal opinion is that people are still waiting for new updates. And once we get the ETFs approved by BlackRock, hopefully, this would be the big hit that everybody's looking for. This would be the big bull run everybody would be expecting. But again, we're still too much focused on what happened in the past when it's already almost over.
Institutional adoption through ETFs, which is going to be the biggest catalyst for any altcoin in this market. I have been comparing the, XRP chart to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to Sol, to even Doge, because again, I just want to take note that...
Yeah, it just surpassed everything. Again, I don't feel like Bitcoin can even catch up at this point. Like, it surpassed everything because it got back, from all the good news. It literally got a best case scenario.
XRP has outperformed almost everything in this market outside of like meme coins and fresh launches in the last year, right? If we're thinking about Bitcoin and XRP has outperformed Bitcoin almost 5 times. XRP against Ethereum, again, it's almost 5 times. And then also even against Solana, I mean, it's not even comparable at this point. And even with Dogecoin, also XRP has been outperforming. And I could go down the entire...
I mean, meme coins are stuff of the past, in my opinion. It's all about utility coins now. I've been saying it over and over again. I sound like a broken tune, but we saw all, what's the biggest gainer? If it would be meme coins, again, I was very good on SHIB, and 2021 was way different for Shiba Inu than it is now. Because literally what happened is all the money switched from, meme coins to XRP. And you can see that by all these utility tokens in the USA are up 400%. 400% for, them. Before even US announced anything that they will be buying them or whatever, or doing partnerships. 400% is just an insane amount in 1 year when the stock markets grow only 5 to 7% conservatively.
Top 100 list and do the same exact thing, or I could just open up the general CoinMarketCap view here, and let's just go to top gainers and top losers in the top 100 for the last 30 days. If we're looking at some of these top gainers, let's just go off of OKB.
A lot of these top gainers that I see, guys, also you have to remember, you're probably thinking, should I buy now? This is not financial advice, but what I see with a lot of these top gainers, usually they're very cheap coins. They're not like XRP, so they're very easy to buy, and they go up 100%, but that means they can also go very easily down 100%. But now XRP is such a big coin, close to Ethereum and Bitcoin, where it still has more potential to grow, is they still have, like sort of built into itself, into its future.
Right?
Like,
So,
it's not going to go
OKB
down
going
to
insane.
XRP won't go down to 1 cent. At least it's like almost impossible. It's not going to be like Terra Luna Classic, right? But again, it's a very, very good thing that we have for XRP's bull run, because now it has set up for its future runs as well.
Say, all right, well, definitely outperforming XRP, right? No, XRP is still outperforming OKB. All of these projects
that
are moving in a significant way, XRP still is outperforming almost every single one of them on the 1 year. And
XRP is probably going to be the biggest gainer this year.
Over 440+%. And it's been one of the most sought after projects this cycle already. And this is hinting at institutional focus, right? If I was an asset management company, I would be looking at XRP and I would be saying, this is interesting, right?
Yeah.
We need to look into this a bit more. We need an ETF around XRP because, again, we are in the market. We are in the business of...
And that's what I've been telling you guys. This is why they don't buy XRP ETFs yet, because they are not available yet. When they are available, I feel like the institutions will see those gains 400%, and they're going to be like, let's invest a small portion, not like 90% of our holdings, but at least a small portion of it. And that's where the real bull run will start.
Making money. So if we're thinking about that, we have to look at how XRP is stacking up against already launched ETFs like Bitcoin and even Ethereum. And to really kind of compare this, we look at the demand, we look at the performance, we look at how much attention is on XRP. And I think that this is telling us that these institutional players are also noticing that XRP has been a very strong mover already this year. It's been outperforming all of the top dogs. And
the issue is, can it go to 700%? I mean, if it could go from 600%, what doesn't make you think it can go for another 100 when the bull run hasn't even started yet, right? This is what keeps me hyped. Could this be another Shiba Inu 2021 rally when SHIB, literally rested a bit and then rallied back up?
And this is also telling us that we should be seeing a big push on ETFs very soon. But there is an obstacle, and that is the case. I really do think that the case has hindered quite a bit of things, especially even XRP spot ETF decisions. Now, if we're thinking about that, we also got a big update from Ripple CEO. XRP spot
ETF is coming soon. This is what I was calling, guys. October is when we really have it. Decision deadline. And again, this is not going to be one spot ETF. It's going to be multiple per week. So I will be covering all of them. And I covered it yesterday on my channel when we have these decisions, guys. This is going to be the big thing. Again, in September, we'll be hearing more news about this, but October is going to be Uptober. XRP is drop, get more. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty normal that it drops now, especially in August, maybe even September. September is bad historically for XRP. It was down. It's not that big of a problem, in my opinion. It's just set in stone, and Octobers are really when the mass gains come in, at least historically. But who knows? With US now, we could be seeing a double, triple rally. Nobody knows. It's crypto.
ETF is coming soon. We got this on the 15th. Brad Garlinghouse says he's confident that the US SEC will approve an XRP spot ETF, with trading expected to start soon. Decision deadline October 2025. So October this year. Will this be an XRP breakout moment? And we also, remember, got that update from Standard Chartered. This was 4 months ago, where they forecasted that XRP would reach $12.50 by the end of 2028. But also within this, they did say something very interesting. What is that? It's the XRP ETF. A major catalyst for this growth is...
This would be a lot of inflows that we haven't seen before. Again, when XRP ETFs were revealed for crypto, this is where the big bull run came in for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So XRP is definitely gonna have that price target. Again, they're calling for $8 in 2026, $5.50. These are target levels. So yeah, even if in 1 year we do like a 1x, I would definitely be very happy. just, from spot ETFs alone. That is 100% gains in a single year.
The anticipated approval of a spot XRP ETF in the US by the third quarter of 2025. Now, also, they're saying 2025 price predictions, XRP $5.50 compared to Bitcoin's $200,000 and Ethereum's $4,000. Well, guess what? They're already wrong on Ethereum. I don't know about Bitcoin yet, but $5.50 seems pretty low on XRP. I would say their 2026 price prediction of $8 is more on point, or even 2026.
There's going to be a lot of what we call support levels or walls to break through it to, $5.50. It's not going to be that easy to break to $4 because there's a lot of people selling it at $4. But if we can push through that, what am I saying today? Then we could definitely see, $5.50 much easier. The issue is breaking that wall.
7 with $10.40. But again, we'll have to watch, wait, and see. But the main thing that I'm looking at is their anticipated approval of a spot XRP ETF in the third quarter decision, because I do think that prediction could definitely live up to, the hype, because already we have the case wrapping up. It feels like it's almost done, and XRP attention is only growing from this point on. I mean, everyone's eyes are on XRP at this point because of the performance already this year. And right now, even though we are in the Ethereum phase of the cycle, I'm mainly looking at what altcoins can do next in this market the second that Ethereum does break a new all-time high. Now, on top of that, we also go over here to the Ethereum ETFs, because we have to focus on the Ethereum ETFs right now, because it's kind of giving us a little bit of a glimpse into how successful some of these other altcoin ETFs could be, because for the longest time...
I mean, first one is going to be Ethereum, before any other ETFs. Imagine BlackRock publishing what we're calling for Pudgy Penguins ETF, and I'm not saying it's not going to come out, but of course they're going to have the ones that are most traded, the most talked about right now, and that is XRP. Spot ETFs post fourth best inflow day ever. Again, this is a lot of money coming in, but the ETFs are just the start. People are calling it for their own coins. Guys, it's very obvious that the first ETFs are going to be coming for the top 3 biggest cryptos, which, the top 2 already have it. So the top 3 is XRP.
What have we heard? We heard that, Ethereum ETFs are not that successful. Bitcoin ETFs are going to continue to outshine Ethereum ETFs. It's all about Bitcoin. Well, guess what? Spot Ethereum ETFs post 4th best inflow day ever, over $600 million. 3 of top 4 inflow days since launch have occurred this week. Nearly $3 billion in new money over the past 4 trading sessions, quickly becoming a money vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
And also over here, record trading volume for spot Ethereum ETFs. Look at this chart. Good indication that institutional investors are getting more involved. And we could see, the US Ether ETFs hitting record volume. And then also, last but not least, highest trading volume week ever for spot crypto ETFs. Spot Ethereum ETFs, absolutely.
I mean, it's just also because market is returning we're hitting also all-time highs. Feel like this could be way bigger, because when ETFs were posted for Bitcoin and Ethereum, that was not a bull run. We were still in a bear market.
Obliterated previous weekly trading volume record. Wonder if there are any no demand naysayers still out there. And yeah, when we think about Ethereum, the craziest thing about the ETF performance is that Ethereum's ETFs have been very successful, but I think back in time to the days where XRP was the second largest crypto asset. It flipped Ethereum multiple times. The demand around XRP could quickly outpace Ethereum. I really do think that we could have a very successful spot XRP ETF. And I think that could be a catalyst for, a whole bunch of attention to flow onto XRP, which would also bring in a ton of volume and value to XRP. And that could very well be the catalyst for XRP to actually...
There hasn't ever been a bad news if XRP ETF gets posted. Always it's going to be good.
Actually flip Ethereum again in the future. We don't know if that's going to happen this cycle. We don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just saying it's always a possibility. But I do think that the Ethereum ETFs being so successful are also hinting at, if we're going into the next phase, which is altcoins, I do think that altcoin ETFs, if approved, could also rally against Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs. Now, talking more so about that, we also have over here, the XRP ETF will be the wave people have not realized could happen. This has all been just pre-season. And here we actually have Nate Garashi on CNBC. A standardized crypto ETF framework could be implemented in the next 2 months. No more separate approvals for each spot ETF. That means a wave of XRP, Solana, Cardano, and more ETFs could flood the market soon. And big shout out to Zafe Crypto for this. Check it out, guys.
Three major
Why is this so low volume?
exchanges, so NYSE, NASDAQ, and CBOE, they have all filed with the SEC for generic listing standards for crypto ETFs, which basically means that the exchanges wouldn't need to seek specific approval for each spot crypto ETF as long as it meets certain criteria. So this would streamline the approval process. And that's important because right now there are filings out there from multiple issuers for XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs, Cardano, HBAR. We could go on down the list, but there are a boatload of filings out there. And the expectation is that this standardized crypto framework will be implemented, say, in the next 2 months or so. And so if and when that happens, I think you're going to see the floodgates open. We're going to see a wave of approvals, and you're going to see, again, a boatload of new crypto ETFs coming to market.
I mean, this is great, but the one that I have been calling the one and only BlackRock ETF is probably going to account for 80% of all the volume. And once they announce it, I really feel that's when XRP will skyrocket. Good evening. How are you doing? But yeah, XRP ETFs, these are great. These are awesome. You know, Bitwise, it's still a very big company. But when you compare it to the power of BlackRock, which can literally move the markets, XRP ETF will be safe mostly when BlackRock announces it, which in my theory is going to be around either early October or September to prepare for it, because they're still waiting for how much demand there is for these ETFs. And I feel like they have something planned. In my personal opinion, I have no info on that, but just the thoughts of it, you know, the same patterns we're seeing with Ethereum would be very nice.
Yeah, that certainly
like that would be just announcement itself, not even inflows, would be a gain.
Seems like a big catalyst there. Matt, do you think we'll see more crypto-related IPOs similar to Circle, especially around stablecoins? Do you think we'll see some SPAC-related IPOs that have that kind of crypto focus?
Sure. I mean, there's a saying on Wall Street, when the ducks are quacking, feed them. So, of course, Circle really accelerated the timeline of a lot of these crypto companies that have been waiting for the right time to go public. You bring up SPACs. We've seen a lot of SPAC activity, specifically targeting crypto treasury companies. But I will mention that with Bullish this week, it might be flying under the radar, but Bullish has a lot of crypto assets. So it's not really a crypto treasury company, but I mean, it's sitting on 2 billion plus of crypto assets. So we are seeing some activity there.
2 billion is a lot.
Wow, yeah, no small number. Nate, how have crypto fund flows been looking?
And again, they will have to buy this XRP. And when they have to buy this XRP, guess what happens to the price? Price goes up, right? They have to hold XRP when they sell this ETF.
You know, does that to you symbolize just the overall demand for crypto right now? And if they get kind of the institutional support, as you mentioned, with regard to the NYSE and NASDAQ, do you think that will help support additional ETF creation?
I do. It's been a monster year for inflows into spot crypto ETFs, about $26 billion.
Can they even handle like XRP? You know, that would be a lot of new customers coming in. Think about it, BlackRock. You know, whoever is coming in, like maybe they're gathering enough employees to actually handle all this processing, because this would be a huge inflow. Everybody is asking for this listing. And again, they're also focusing on RW8. I feel like they're focusing on a lot of stuff in crypto. I think they're doing stuff right. And the big thing is, could be their next big move, you know, in my opinion. Like, would be very nice to see.
Is gone into spot crypto ETFs overall this year, about 19 billion into spot Bitcoin ETFs, another 7 billion into spot Ether ETFs. And if you look in July alone, investors put about 6 billion into spot Bitcoin ETFs and 5.5 billion into spot Ether ETFs. And if
So yeah, I mean, listen.
Yeah, so 20 billion, and I feel like this would be like XRP would be probably half of Ether, since Ether is half of its market cap. So like maybe 1 to 2 billion, maybe 3 billion, maybe 4 billion. So, but definitely a huge inflow, right? Just a lot of extra buyers that we haven't seen before getting into XRP is just good news overall.
Is how successful XRP has been this cycle already. And all of the moves that have been happening around XRP as well to really kind of support the success of XRP. I think that this is something that a lot of people are overlooking at this point. I don't think that a lot of people are realizing, you know, how big of a catalyst this will be for not just price action around XRP, but also even think about it like this, right? XRP skyrocketing, it's making headline news. All of a sudden, we are starting to see more and more inflows into the ETFs. It's a prime environment for more and more bullishness around XRP, but we do need the spot ETFs approved first for all of this to actually.
If we want to see like $5 XRP ETF, that's what we need to see at first.
To really kind of align.
Nothing else is going to stop it.
I do think that a lot of people are not paying attention to, you know, the ETFs. I think that the ETFs right now around Ethereum have been very successful in supporting Ethereum's price action. In terms of XRP and XRP ETFs, I really do think that this is going to be something that we see probably Q3, right? Which would align with the market waking up again. It would align with phase 3 and 4 starting as well, which is alt season. It would also align with Ethereum making a new all-time high, just like back in January of 2021. So again, the environment here around XRP is insanely bullish. I think that it's extremely important to think about all of these things when we are also looking at the market and we're starting to see potential sell-offs. We're starting to see pullbacks. It's important to think of what's still left in front of us this cycle. We still have yet to actually see altcoins go insane. And
I don't feel like anyone is feeling bad about the market right now. Just being a bit down is nowhere near like a catastrophic failure or anything. Like a lot of people are calling, oh, it's going to be over. I hate this. You know, crypto is done. Nobody's saying that right now because crypto has been, you know, if XRP goes up 600%, of course, it's going to go down a few cents.
Parabolic. We have yet to actually see Bitcoin dumbs break down. We have yet to actually see Ethereum make a new all-time high. And if we're thinking about all of that, we're still thinking about what is left in store for XRP because, again, XRP so far already this cycle has been doing very well. But I still think that XRP has a lot more gas left in the tank. And the ETFs are definitely a huge catalyst for this, but also the case, everyone that, you know, is saying, oh, the case is done, it's done, it's done. It basically is done, but we still have to get through all of this tedious paperwork. But once it's done and officially announced that it's, you know, officially finished, right? Once we get that, I do think that that puts everything in motion around the ETFs, around adoption, around announcements. So we still have to just be a little bit more patient here. But I think that it's going to pay off, especially once we start to see everything align perfectly with.
This is what's really gonna, you know, the market is holding up very well. I totally agree with that. Isn't that there like 7 trillion? Like a lot of stuff is coming into crypto. Everyone is ignoring this. 7 trillion coming in. Look at that. It's not just, you know, the XRP ETFs for XRP. There's the Clarity Act likely passing. Wall Street banks and Fortune 500 firms will finally have the green light to drive into digital assets. This is 7 trillion potential. I feel like this is going to be a lower number than 7 trillion, but I like to dream. And this would be a very big number and lots of money coming into XRP, right? So we are not that far off from the bull run of the XRP. Basically, I call it the institutional bull run, guys, that I have been waiting for. So I would be definitely very excited for that.
Talk about this, a new article we're going to go over. Plus I have some other Ripple and XRP news, guys. Let's start here. Obviously, we got to start here. Trillions could flow into crypto. We know it's coming. There's over $7 trillion sitting on the sideline, waiting to go into speculative assets, waiting for this really to pop off. Listen closely.
Yeah, we do believe the bill will be passed within the next 60 days. And this is further clarification. The Genius Act gave us clarity on stablecoins. This new bill will give us clarity on much more within the general world of crypto. And again, provides the rules that the traditional finance industry, banks, insurance companies, credit card companies, as well as the Fortune 500 generally, need to know that they're able to engage in this marketplace. They know what they're allowed to do, how they're allowed to do it, how they have to disclose it and report it, and pay taxes on it. And this is going to unleash the burdens that have kept everybody out of the marketplace. The result of all this, Talia, you're going to see hundreds of millions, probably hundreds of billions of dollars, perhaps even trillions of dollars flowing into Bitcoin and other digital assets. And since all of these coins operate on a supply-demand issue, just like any other asset, we're anticipating this is going to be the beginning of a major source of inflows and price increases over the next several years.
This is the beginning of major price increases and inflows into the crypto market over the next few years. You hear like Raoul Pal saying we're going to 100 trillion over the next, 8 to 10 years. This is where the money is going to come.
So yeah, I was calling for institutional pumps that are gonna outgo, even if it's 7 trillion, not 100% of that 7 trillion will flow into any one asset. That what I was saying, it could be only like 200 billion. People are saying 7 trillion, but that is all the companies, right? And I feel like only a small amount of this money will go into crypto. And it will maybe, in my opinion, be only like 30 billion at start, maybe 20 billion. But this is still a very big amount of money coming into crypto that will potentially pump the markets. That along with ETFs, that along with retail, this is just on top. The markets right now are still looking great. It's just that, September and August are not really huge events. At least historically, that's not when they have major pumps. On Sundays and weekends, yeah, that's when crypto really dies down and doesn't do anything. But October is when I'm really excited because that is when also this clarity bill is coming out.
Now, I've shown you this before in live streams and in a few of my videos, but I want to just hammer this home to you. This is just in the United States, not using the world here. Just in the US, how much money could flow into the crypto market. This is how much is available to flow into the crypto market if they choose to do that. Insurance companies, 9 trillion. Hedge funds, 4.74 trillion. Pension funds, this is the big one, $43.4 trillion in pension funds. Now, we look at President Trump signing an executive order allowing 401ks and IRAs to enter the crypto space. You start to imagine that there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in moving their retirement funds, some of it, into the crypto market.
I feel like it's going to be easier to buy with XRP ETFs. That's the main thing with retirement funds. A lot of older generation will find it easier to buy crypto because it's very hard. Imagine buying XRP 4 years ago was almost impossible, guys. It was almost impossible to buy XRP. It's going to get much easier in the next few years.
Imagine 10 or 20% of this value going into the crypto market. That's what we're talking about here. It could be 5 trillion, it could be $10 trillion. Brokerage firms, 35 trillion. You have some of the biggest brokerage firms in the world. They have a lot of money under management. Their customers obviously have kids, right? Or some of them are even young millionaires or billionaires. So these people are going to want to get into the crypto market, and a
lot of money will get turned from basically from the older generation into the newer generation. That's the most important thing I'm seeing right now. Lots of that money will change.
to have a lot of money to do that. Also looking at endowment funds, these are all schools and universities, 400 billion. Banks have 27 trillion just hanging out and chilling. Family offices have 1.8 trillion. And sovereign wealth funds, I believe it's like 13.9 trillion, but this is more global. This is everything. This is global estimates here of how much money can enter the space. Look at this, brokerage firms, $145 trillion. You're telling me that the crypto market isn't gonna go any higher than this? What? Let me just show you something else here. Oh wait, I was gonna show you like what could it do to XRP's price. Let me just show you this real quick. All right, so I ran these numbers a while ago. If we took 1% of the flows above 3% or 5%, this is US, this is global, how much money we're talking about could come into, let's say, XRP, right? If we got 1% of all this money, 3% of all this money, 5% of all this money, this is where XRP's price would go. This is with no market cap multiple.
But the issue here, this math is wrong in my opinion. Why is this wrong? For a very reason, because 7 trillion could be coming up to 7 trillion, first of all. Assuming 100 billion total XRP in supply, numbers surrounded for variability. Anyway, assuming 1% of US goes into XRP, this is a very unlikely amount because it's going to go, that 7 trillion is going to be spread out across the whole market. You know, people won't only buy XRP, they will buy other coins as well. So yeah, if 7 trillion, like 1% global, you know, we see 65 per XRP, you know, even if 0.5 goes into that, that would be $6 per XRP, which is very fair to the estimations. Is what people have been calling for in 2026, which is not that crazy. It's basically a double, right? But we don't know what will happen. So just keep in mind, guys, that there is a lot of good news still coming other than the XRP retirement funds and all of that people have been waiting for. So you can see here 60 trillion cap, 606 per XRP, a 50x multiplier. Now this is going to be very hard to hit because you also have outflows. You have people selling their own XRP.
I'm not going to spend very much time on this because, you know, let's get there first and then we'll celebrate all of this. But that's the information. That's the numbers. If you want to pause the screen and go over, this is the US 1%, 3%, 5%. This is global 1%, 3%, 5% of all the money above. And here are the multipliers. All right, here is digital asset investor. This is what we've been waiting for. New money is flowing in now. We're at 4.11 trillion in crypto. XRP has done a 400.
So yeah, getting to 10 trillion for crypto will not be that hard, especially if XRP did over 500%, guys. This is even before the ETFs.
And 75% gain this year, crushing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Without new money, what happens next will be epic. All right, and then it says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent claims that the stablecoin market could grow into 3.7 trillion by the end of the decade. So this is just for
like stablecoins. That is why XRP bought the $200 million rail deal. The $200 million rail deal is what people have been waiting for. You know, and once we got it, now XRP owns 10% of the market share of business-to-business stablecoin payments. It's a very big market, at least in the future, and XRP will now own a majority of that market share, or at least a very big portion of it.
4 years and 5 months away. End of the decade. I know when I say it like
so,
that,
yeah,
I'm like,
doing
where
exactly
did the last 5
planned.
years go? Holy smokes. If they believe that the stablecoin market, that's about 250 billion today, is going to, you know, 13x, 14x in the next 5 years, what do you think the rest of the crypto market's going to do? If you need to have the rest of the crypto market supporting all of this additional, you know, stablecoins, so the crypto market would probably do something similar, which would bring us to, you know, 80 trillion, $100 trillion market. That's pretty cool. All right, and you start to wonder, what are BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, UBS, State Street Global Advisors, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, Credit Agricole, Alliance, Capital Group, Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon, Amundi, and PIMCO. These people are sitting on $40 trillion. When does this money start entering the space? Has it already started to enter the space? This is exciting stuff. I'm telling you. All right, and here is the article that Digital Assets Daily posted. Swift features Ripple and Stellar as banking disruptors. Let's go ahead and just take a look at what this is. This is August 16th, so I think this is today's date. This will come out on the 17th, yes. So hot off the press, guys. Crypto researcher Smoke. I wonder if Times Tabloid like has a deal with Smoke, because they mention him all the time. Whoa. Crypto.
So guys, just if you guys didn't know, there is a new XRP leak, or a researcher basically doing all these predictions for XRP, and from one thing he made an announcement, it actually came out true, which is a very, very important thing here. Is he knows a lot about XRP. He knows what's been happening, and he also said he's been in XRP since 2016, since XRP hit 10 cents, and he's still been in it, right? The current state of competition in the cross-border payment sector. So this is where XRP has its own competition.
Researcher Smoke has shared images from a Swift branded presentation featuring Ripple and Stellar during a discussion of replacing traditional correspondent banking. These slides outline the current state of the competition in cross-border payment sector and the requirements for any system aiming to disrupt the traditional correspondent banking model. Content of the slides. The presentation begins by referencing the concept of disruptive innovation, attributed to the renowned Harvard Business School professor Clayton Christensen. It highlights that technology acts as an enabler, but a new business model is the key driver of meaningful change. Examples include industries disrupted by companies that do not own the assets traditionally associated with their sector. The slides then address correspondent banking directly, stating that for any alternative to disrupt the model, it must achieve global reach across all countries and all currencies, provide a viable nostro-vostro account alternative for settlement, gain regulatory support from authorities familiar with existing systems, justify implementation costs through measurable savings, and deliver superior services to customers. Now, this is a very important paragraph here. Let's just go through this one by one. Basically, all countries and all currencies. Right now, Ripple covers 90% of the FX market, and they have almost every currency already on the XRP ledger.
This is why XRP is number one, is because they started working very early. Like, what, 2016? The same thing they're doing right now with RWA, real world assets, and the same thing they are doing right now with everything else. They're doing the same thing with the partnerships for business to business stablecoins. This is what I've been telling you guys when watching the news every single day. It really gives you a lot of perspective on what's happening in the current economy.
World, Europe, the United States, Mexico, Canada, they're everywhere. They want to cover the entire world and all the currencies. Now, let's take this a step further. A viable nostro-vostro account alternative. We know by using on-demand liquidity, you can pretty much get rid of nostro-vostro accounts. The reason this is going to be valuable, banks can take money that's been sitting dormant for so many years, right? This is probably anywhere from 15 to $25 trillion globally. I've seen the number vary. And they're going to be able to take this money back and put this money to good use inside of the bank. Now, this could be loaned to people, right? This could be new businesses. This could be supporting existing businesses. This could be people building new homes or whatever it is, right? You can put that money back to good use. You don't need it locked up around the world anymore.
I feel like XRP is reinvesting also a lot of this money into other businesses. Like a lot of this money we have right now, they're going to reinvest that into whatever they can. And they're already generating money. Didn't they just say that since 2024, they are finally profitable? And that's before the lawsuit even ended. So yeah, they are getting paid for that. It's not just XRP. They don't need to sell the XRP tokens because of the lawsuit, which in my opinion, actually really boosted the prices as well.
This could be beneficial to any country bringing that money back and putting it to good use for its citizens. Gain regulatory support from authorities familiar with existing systems. Now, this is something that speaks volumes, right? We've seen Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, and the team in meetings with some of the biggest central bankers and power players in the banking system in the world. You can't ignore the IMF and the BIS and the World Economic Forum and Monetary Authority of Singapore and the Central Bank of Indonesia, all of these different places that Ripple has worked closely side by side with these countries. When you talk about a global currency, right, taking over everything, getting the nod and the okay from these, people who actually control these systems, this is what we're talking about here. I don't see any other cryptocurrency outside of XLM even come close to some of the meetings that Ripple.
So the thing is, there are now projects which I don't want to mention on this channel, that are trying to get up to Ripple's market share. It's going to be a problem. They will need at least a few years, in my opinion, to even catch up to the type of partnerships Ripple has. Because Ripple has right now been getting all of the partnerships that we have been waiting for. Like literally 90% of the most important partnerships, Ripple has it. So yeah, just let that sink in, guys.
And Brad have been in.
So even if they have a great product, like other companies might have a better product, it does not really matter, because for that reason, what we're really seeing right now is most people, like the 90% of the projects, the 90% of the banks will go to XRP and through XRP's platform.
Let me know down below who has better meetings, right? I don't think anyone's going to say anything. Justify implementation costs.
So yeah, XRP literally has zero competition at this point. It does have competition in terms of like great products out there, but in terms of partnerships, it is dominating. Like it is the number one out there.
Through measurable savings and deliver superior customer service. I mean, do we even need to talk about this, right? The separate slides outlines the high level of competition in cross-border payments through a network diagram. This includes both legacy providers and newer entrants. Ripple and Stellar are displayed alongside other companies and platforms such as PayPal, TransferWise, Western Union, Rhea, MoneyGram, Zoom, Currency Fair, WorldRemit, Bitcoin, Payoneer, and Align Commerce. A vertical label on the slide reads correspondent banking disintermediation, suggesting that these competitors are part of a broader trend toward bypassing and streamlining traditional banking pathways. And so here is the image. This is an old image, but hey, nothing like taking something old and making it new, right? Ripple in the middle being a connector of all connectors. And then here's Ripple and Stellar's placement. Ripple and Stellar are positioned within the graphic as players offering faster and more direct alternatives for cross-border settlement. Their inclusion alongside both major remittance companies and digital payment providers indicates that the presentation views them as part of the competitive field that is already influencing the sector. However, their not yet assessment on full disruption shows that Swift considers the correspondent banking model still intact, and even as competition grows, even a high-level person that works for Swift has something on their
So the biggest competition probably next up is like Swift, you know, all these payment transfers outside of crypto. Inside of crypto, I don't feel like there's any competition at all, in my opinion. Like, can you check like top 100 coins? Not even one of them is like Ripple. There is actually what we have, you know, Hedera, HBAR, all of these are working, but they're working not with banks. They are focused on working as a payment provider for example, for debit cards, you know, or for payment processing. So didn't HBAR have a huge partnership, or like Ondo? They all had a partnership other than banking, which banking is really hard to get into. It's hard to get those partnerships. You can't just come up to the bank and I guess like say, hey, can we build with you? No, it takes way more. You have to join their events, their conferences. And that's what, you know, Ripple employees and Ripple did over the past 5 years, 10 years. They were smart. They know what they were doing. And that's where really Ripple won in its sense, in my opinion. Like right now, yeah, there is a lot of money to make in payment processing, but it's way more competitive than working with banks. You know, we already have Swift, what it is, MasterCard, and all of these are already have payment processors, which probably make a ton of money themselves.
LinkedIn. I showed this in.
So it's gonna, you know, they partner up with PayPal. PayPal is another thing. Not Ripple, but Ripple literally went for the most under-tapped market, which is the banks. It's hard to get into, but they pay a lot, in my opinion, from what I understand the system.
Video a few days ago that's like 77% complete of like world transformation of correspondent banking. So I think we're getting close, just 23% away. And what will that look like in the future? And then anyways, if you want to read like the rest of this, please do. Laura Shin did have this interview. I thought this was interesting.
Ready for real world assets. Ethereum does have cool things. It does have cool projects, but it's going to do different stuff. You know, could break everything. I don't feel like that's going to happen. That's like saying, if the dollar gets, you know, overprinted, then we're gonna, you know, the dollar is gonna be worthless. This is very hard to happen, to have a compromised contract, in my opinion. But, you know, this is like saying if XRP could be minted more, that would be a problem. I'm not too sure, but just bear in mind that, you know, people were calling like for Bitcoin as well.
Is currently at a place where they're not really willing to do things about significant exploits. And so I would ask the entire Ethereum community, let's assume a worst case scenario happens and Tether or Circle's private keys get compromised and a hacker is now in control of the smart contract on Ethereum for USDC or USDT, including all of their freeze and seize capabilities. What do you do? Right? Like, what are you doing with your hands? What is your game plan at that point? Because it's going to break everything on that chain. And until we have significantly more mature risk management tooling around like the Ethereum product, it is not ready for prime time.
Interesting. It is not ready for prime time, right? They're not taking this seriously. Institutions are looking to Ethereum as the solution for the entire crypto market, right? Doesn't mean Ethereum's not going to go on to do stupid numbers, but still, you start to wonder what this gentleman's saying here. Are other banks and financial institutions looking at what he's saying and saying, hey, this is worrisome?
But, you know, then we have BlackRock working with Ethereum. So it's not like they're not doing good, because they're literally working with BlackRock. They don't have to work with banks to make money. But it's just XRP is already working with banking, which is a huge advantage for XRP. It's just that Ethereum and XRP do different things. I don't really feel like it's that much comparable.
This is why you go to Ripple, right? Who's the custody of Ripple stablecoin RLUSD? BNY Mellon. Oh my God, it doesn't get bigger than that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We got a lot of money coming in.
I don't 100% agree with this. I feel like Ethereum is going to do its own things. That's why also institutions are buying Ethereum on the ETF. That's why they feel like it's undervalued right now, and they're calling for 6,000, 8,000 ETH. But I do also feel like that, XRP has its own
United
potential.
States.
There is like a win-win case scenario. Crypto is still very undertapped in that. But there's an XRP master plan. I wanted to check in on that. He revealed XRP's plan live on air. Bitcoin will be the gold standard of crypto. XRP will be the cash standard from country to country, business to business, and eventual country to a country at a cheaper cost than SWIFT. Yeah, that is the good thing that XRP does well here. They're much, much cheaper than Ethereum, and that's why they're winning here right now. It doesn't mean that Ethereum is bad. It's just that this business to business that they had, they were working on, and all the companies they bought, Rail, they bought for 200 million, is a very, very big partnership that is going to set them up for the future of banking. Once we get into a live launch, I'm guessing 2026, 2027 maybe, possibly late 2026. We don't know 100%. It's also possible all the banks won't launch, on the same day. It is a very, very certain factor that XRP does have a roadmap, a plan in that sense for XRP holders. So smash that like button, guys, if you haven't already. But let's check at this. Paul Atkins just shared his plan for XRP.
It has been taking great strides to upgrade its financial system to include digital assets, tokenization, and stablecoins. I wanted to take a look at the connections between the United States and, of course, Ripple and XRP. Can we foresee where this is all going? There's some information coming to light here from Paul Atkins telling us what he sees the future as. You have to hear this clip. We also are going to take a look at some other things like, can Ripple donate the escrowed XRP to the United States to pay off US debt? I wanted to take a look at this to better understand if it's even possible or what would need to happen to do that. So we're also going to look at that information after we take a look at this. So this image is from years ago. I'll show you who's all in this image. You got Brad Garlinghouse right here. And then this is the, frequent White House summit where they are talking about cryptocurrency. You have the CEO of Coinbase. You have Michael Saylor here. Brad Garlinghouse is right here on the left, and a bunch of other people in between. Scott Bessent, the Treasurer of the United States.
Again, that's what I was telling you guys. None of these projects, Brad Garlinghouse legit met up with Trump, and they probably talked about crypto, and the future of technology. This is why it is miles ahead. For that simple reason, is no other projects, not even Ethereum, did that. Which is definitely very good news for anyone, in XRP space, because how many crypto projects met up with the president of USA? Probably just one, right?
Is right there. And looking at who's in this picture below, right, you have people from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. You have people from the International Monetary Fund. This is Christine Lagarde here. She is now...
This is what I told you. This is like a networking event for them. So here being, Ripple being here, he can network with all of these people into this, billionaires, all these tech companies on the future of banking. So it's a win-win, but it is like once in history.
The head of the European Central Bank, they're making a decision on whether to go forward with a CBDC for the digital euro, which I do believe they will. You have Ross Leckow from the IMF here, Brad Garlinghouse here. You have people from the Bank of Indonesia. And it's just interesting to see the rooms that Ripple has been a part of all of these years along the way. And you also are taking a look here at what the US is trying to do. They want to take American innovation and they want the rest of the world to use that American innovation, and they're talking about digital assets. Check this out.
So a couple of weeks ago, the administration issued the President's Working Group's report on digital assets in the United States, and there were clear directions to the SEC. We're part of the PWG, that President's Working Group, and clear recommendations for us to go forward and help make what the President has announced, his intention to make America the crypto capital of the world.
To make America the crypto capital of the world, right? That's something we've heard a bunch, but this next part is what I want you to focus on. Listen closely.
to make America the crypto capital of the world and have the world run on American technology.
Okay, so in the same sentence that they're talking about making America the crypto capital of the world, they're talking about having the world use American tech.
They already said that the US, not just XRP. I want to make it very clear, guys. Not just XRP, but there is going to be multiple of them that they are working with, which I am very excited for. Like multiple of these companies. And here's the good news. XRP is going to be one of them. They're probably going to favor US companies before any other crypto company.
Technology, and we were talking about digital assets in that same breath. So you start to wonder, well, what American cryptocurrencies are they talking about here? Because when you take a look at the top tokens, Bitcoin, is that American innovation? Is anybody using Bitcoin for international payments or anything? Stablecoins? Right? Tokenization? No. Ethereum, it's based in Switzerland. It's not an American company. It's not American innovation. And then you have XRP, which is all of the above. And so you start to wonder, is there things that we could take a look at right now showing the US government, Ripple, and XRP? Let's go ahead and take a look at this information. The US government and Ripple, direct and indirect engagement. Federal and regulatory relationships. Ripple.
US companies were clearly the biggest winners of 2025. And also, I guess, 2024, because they were setting up. Like, these are the ones that actually won in the end, which we did not expect, right? And it was literally Ripple who was working for the last 9 years, and the government favored now US crypto companies. And I have a feeling they could connect, like the US could start investing in these companies because they want to build their own technology. They don't want to use, other people's technology or from other countries. They want their own technology to boost their products or banking transfers. Imagine how powerful if the biggest payment processor and the biggest bank transfers in the world are coming from USA. Again, that's what USA wants to push.
Has actively engaged with multiple major US federal agencies over the years. This includes the Federal Reserve, the SEC, the US Treasury, and Office of Comptroller of Currency. In 2014, the US Government Accountability Office classified XRP as a virtual currency. In 2015, Ripple reached a compliance agreement with FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, a bureau of the Treasury setting industry standards for digital asset compliance. Fed integration and banking access. Ripple is strategically expanding its access to the US financial system through a partnership with Finastra. Ripple gained indirect access to the Federal Reserve master accounts and leveraging compatibility with FedNow service and the US government's...
Now, I didn't know that, but in my opinion, this is where most of the money comes in. There's no way XRP can transfer this volume of money at $10 XRP. It has to go thousands or better to sustain as it gets used by more and more business country at the same time burning. Yeah, it is not going to get used by worldwide yet. It can probably not even handle USA at this point, but they are trying to push towards it, right? And they're trying to at least push, maybe 10% of USA. And then they're trying to push for maybe like even if they can handle 1% of the world. So yeah, they cannot, transfer. Their blockchain is not advanced enough to transfer the whole world, from what I hear. Maybe not even 1%, but they're at least like, in the last 10 years, they've been getting closer and closer to doing it. Might take like another 10 to 15 years for technology to go there, but meanwhile, more banks will be joining up. The same time burning as the volume goes up. So yeah, XRP's main plan is probably burning XRP through your Ripple ledger.
Real-time payment infrastructure. Ripple also applied for a U.S. national bank charter and is seeking their own Federal Reserve master account. If granted, Ripple would be able to hold its reserves for its stablecoins directly with the Fed. There's some also policy proposals and integration of XRP. Notable, a proposal was submitted to the SEC's working task force suggesting XRP be designated as a strategic financial asset. So this was sent in by a regular person. This is not something that the government actually built, but I've seen this document. It is a real document, but it's just not what a lot of people thought it was. Recommendations includes presidential executive orders, regulatory clarity, and mandates for banks to adopt XRP for liquidity. Through these ambitions, proposals have not yet enacted by law. National Crypto Reserve and executive discussions. Former President Trump publicly announced intentions to create a U.S. crypto reserve, mentioning XRP, Solana, and ADA. He went on to walk back these comments about U.S. supporting American innovation. There is no plan there is no money to buy American assets. They just came out yesterday, Scott Bassett, to say that they don't have any plans to buy Bitcoin, which, made me happy, but it also made me sad, right? I thought that they were going to.
It is unfortunate because we were kind of expecting that, right? It was a big point of crypto. I feel like this could also have a turnaround, but it's a very big factor. If the US government would buy into crypto, would be, tremendous gains. Probably like Bitcoin would basically double, depending on how much they would buy, of course. But just the hype behind it would be the new crypto push that, we were talking about.
American crypto innovation, but it was just kind of sad because I felt like a lot of us were, expecting something to happen.
I definitely was.
It hasn't yet. Now, not saying that it won't in the future, but right now there's no action or plan to buy any cryptocurrency with any money, right? Because this was all done by executive order. When Trump just issues an executive order, there's no taxpayer money behind it. If they wanted to be able to spend taxpayer money, they would need to get Congress and the Senate involved here in the United States.
So yeah, this was a big point of crypto politics. And when XRP went up, a lot of people were calling for XRP to get bought by the US. It's probably still a long process but I'm also not that surprised because we haven't heard news on that since January. The last time we heard news on this, on the government's buying crypto, is January, and now we finally have that, this money will not be used yet for that. Maybe they're waiting for more regulation and the Clarity Act to pass.
States, and if they push through some type of U.S. crypto reserve with maybe like 1% or 3% or something like that would go into supporting American innovation. Now that could be legendary. That could be something like we could help set policy for other countries. Like if the United States does this, it would put pressure on other countries to follow suit. And I think we're missing out on a big opportunity here to show the rest of the world how serious we are. It's one thing to say that we're serious and pass regulation. Great. Like this was kind of expected. This is what we need, but what else are you going to do above this? And I think that's what I'm waiting for. It says Ripple executives have participated in official U.S. government roundtables and continuous policy engagement, yada, yada, yada. Ripple's role in the U.S. financial modernization, FedNow and ISO 20022. Ripple's product suite for ISO 20022 compliant, meaning it can interoperate seamlessly with FedNow and the Federal Reserve's real-time payment system. Remember, FedWire does process about $4.3 trillion a day. If you started to use, XRP or stablecoin, RLUSD for those payments, think of how much money the government could actually save. And then you could...
that's true, but, even processing 4.3 trillion is going to be very hard for XRP. Processing that would be probably like quadrillion transfers or whatever, but we're not any time near processing that amount. Even Ethereum or Bitcoin could potentially not process this yet without having serious network fees. So I'm not too sure the government will go immediately from FedWire to XRP after one meeting. If this ever happens, again, XRP could easily go to $20. This is my personal opinion. But to get to there, to actually working with the government is going to be a way harder process. So I see XRP blowing to 1,000 less than 10 years. What company is not going to want to do business with any bank who doesn't use Ripple? XRP at cheaper rate. All banks will have to confirm. Yeah, $1,000 is going to be hard as well because it's possible with a burn like, XRP $1,000. The issue is what we have right now is outflows are the biggest problem. If someone gets to $800, they will sell all of their XRP. So, we could get a pump in inflows, but then people will still be selling. So $100, $50, $70 is much more realistic in my opinion. But again, I don't know if that will happen in 10 years, but $15 is very realistic in my opinion, at least. Anything could happen.
Take that money and invest it into crypto, right? Because that wouldn't be new money created. That would just be money that you are saving. That would be a really unique idea to start buying crypto. Of course, we know about the bank charter application. I don't need to read that, but there's also been, legal developments. Ripple's long-standing battle with the SEC is finally over. So, nothing too crazy yet. I have seen some people, speculate that the IRS or refunds might be issued in, XRP or something like that, but I haven't seen any definitive proof yet on that. It is a plausible way to pay off national debt. Ripple donate.
The escrow to U.S. government, XRP and Ripple have become the premier settlement layer infra for global CBDC and stablecoin flows. Around $800 per XRP, the U.S. government escrow is worth about $36 trillion. Again, can they really process $36 trillion? Not yet, but maybe this is like a long-term theory plan. So it's going to be hard for Ripple to do that.
It's the escrow to the U.S. government. XRP and RippleNet become the premier settlement layer and infra for global CBDC and stablecoin flows. At $800 per XRP, the U.S. government escrow is worth $36 trillion. So is Ripple, could they even do this? Right?
No, probably not.
People just expect, they could give away $140 billion today and $36 trillion maybe in the future. Sure, why not, right? Is this even possible? Technically, the idea of Ripple donating its XRP escrow to the U.S. government probably isn't possible in practice, and there are extreme policies and economic and technical roadblocks here. The U.S. government's debt is $36 trillion and is comprised mostly of U.S. treasuries held by institutions, countries, and the public, payable in U.S. dollars. XRP is a cryptocurrency, not legal tender or an official reserve asset in the United States.
I mean, this will not happen for sure. It's not a legal tender, and there's probably a lot of implications to that. Would be nice to see that, but I don't ever see this happening. There's plenty of things that we could see. Ripple's escrow, about 50 billion XRP, would be transferred to direct government. Legal proven significant policy change. Like, this will never pass the Senate, in my opinion. We are still in very early stages of crypto. It is just a wild theory, in my opinion.
This is what regulation could change. For the U.S. government to pay off debt using XRP, creditors would have to accept XRP as a payment, which global financial markets and U.S. laws do not currently recognize. Converting XRP to U.S. dollar on a massive scale would require an enormous market liquidity, probably far beyond the real world trading volume of XRP, even with a hypothetical price spike. And then it says, how would such a system work? Ripple donates escrowed XRP to the U.S. government. Ripple's escrow is it's on the lower side now, it's about $39 billion. This would require legal approval, significant policy change, and likely new legislation. Global settlement system, RippleNet and XRP become the world's premier settlement solution for CBDCs and stablecoins, replacing SWIFT and other infrastructures. U.S. debt holders, domestic and foreign, would have to agree to accept XRP in payment or the equivalent in tokenized assets. Like, this is something that I definitely could see happening, because remember, you can exchange anything of value for anything else of value on the XRP ledger, and we're getting, all of these different tokenized assets. This is just now starting. We just passed $1 billion in tokenized assets on the XRP.
I feel like when this happens, XRP is already going to be at $20. Like, people will be looking at the next big thing. XRP is now pushing the rock, to first $10. Like, it's the hardest part for XRP. The first 10 years is already done. It's going to be way easier for it to grow right now.
Ledger, we were just at like 200 million a few days ago. Now it's 1 billion. You're starting to see a huge influx now that we have the EVM sidechain up. This is going to be very, very big for Ripple and XRP. And of course, all of us, the XRP army. Price appreciation. XRP's price rises to $800 due to massive new support and utility. And then debt repayment mechanism. The US converts XRP into USD to pay its creditors. So, is it possible? There would have to be, legal considerations, legal tender discussions, liquidity, international acceptance, Ripple's role, CBDC and stablecoin infrastructure. There's just a lot of things that would need to happen in order.
There's also regulation, right? Regulation has not passed at all, which is another thing that a lot of people consider is a big problem right now. Regulation.
To get there. But I did find this video, which is really interesting because it was perfect for this. Can this be donated to the US government, or is there going to be a bunch of issues? Like, let's say Ripple woke up today and it was like, you know what, we don't need this $140 billion. Let's just, here it is, right? Even though it's locked.
And Ripple won't give away $140 billion because that's their treasury. They're going to use that in case of an emergency. Why would they give it out?
Up in escrow, they would have to time lock it, right, for the next 40 months or 42 months, whatever it is, and just give everything away, which we don't even know if some of that's already promised. But check this out.
I tell them what a gratis vendor is.
Yeah.
Because I was not going to go into the government. I was doing transition.
What is a gratis vendor?
A gratis vendor is an approved vendor for the United States of America that gives product to the government, doesn't sell it.
Okay.
So therefore, I don't have to go through the whole process of becoming a proper vendor because you're giving it to us. And then if you give it to Article 2, which is the president's stuff, then the president can accept it, right? Because it's give.
Sorry, what's an example of this? Like, just to make
I write some software.
You write some software.
I write some software for the Commerce Department to do a better job, XYZ. You just give it to me. And then I do QA on it, and I can take it. If you sell it to me for $1, we go into government hell.
Right, the whole rigmarole.
Right? But if you give it to me, right? And then I set up, so I said, I'm calling it Doge.
All right, hold on. What is it called?
I tell them what a gratis vendor is.
Gratis vendor. All right, and I also wanted to take a look at this hot rumor alert. It's super hot. U.S. government.
I mean, even if you give something to the government for free, it does not mean that they will use it. Like he's saying, yes, if we give the government for free, the XRP analogy, I'm not so certain they will use it because it might not work. The system right now, it works. It doesn't work perfectly, but it definitely works. So we're still a long way. Banks and, basically $1 trillion and, the first trillion is going to be way, way harder. It's way easier to get a $1 billion partnership than it is to get a 36 trillion, basically changing the entire USA on how it worked the last 200 years. But again, I could be wrong on that. I hopefully am wrong because then XRP would be probably $100, $200, which is, we're going into too much theory right now.
Ripple's escrow for national.
Trump's all in on XRP and it's rocking the top spot as a digital asset. I mean, Trump is just in crypto in general, right? Not just XRP.
Reserve purposes. Like, is this even possible? Of course, we run into the same issues, right? Legal barriers, no existing legal mechanism. Ripple's lawyers and independent legal experts have clarified that the U.S. government does not have a straightforward legal path to seize XRP held in Ripple escrow accounts, barring a criminal conviction or invoking extraordinary national security powers. Ripple's court battles have been so far remain civil in nature. So if the government woke up tomorrow, there's lawyers that believe that they couldn't even take Ripple's escrow away from them. Government asset seizure requires due process. For the U.S. government to seize assets, it would need a legal basis to do so. We've seen some crazy stuff happening recently, so I don't want to put anything past what our government can and can't do. Technical realities of the XRP.
So multi-signature account security, all of this stuff, all or nothing execution. This would be cool if they work with XRP. This would be like a $10 trillion plan. But to get to that, it's going to be very, very, very hard. And XRP going to, simply from zero to a hero, we have to get these bank partnerships first. The bank partnerships are going to be the biggest gains for XRP and the ETFs. Then we can actually focus on the task at hand, like, the bigger fish.
All over the world, as well as they are connected to financial market infrastructures all over the world, stuff like SEPA, Single Euro Payments Area. You have connections into SWIFT, you have connections into...
Like XRP could be working towards being the biggest payment provider. Even if it gets just 10% of the market share, it would still make it a very big project.
To FedNow, through like Finastra or CGI. I mean, there's just so many connections here. You really start to think where Ripple could be in a year from now, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now. This is why I'm insanely bullish on XRP. If you could have bought Ethereum at $100, that was obviously a good play. Buying Ethereum now, maybe Ethereum goes to $10,000 or $15,000 a cycle if it's really insane. There's some people that believe Ethereum could go to maybe 20,000 or 25,000, but it's still only a 5 or 6x return. How long would you have to wait for that? Buying XRP at $3, you don't think XRP can reach $15 or $20? Especially
I feel like, yeah, it's much more possible that XRP goes to $15 to $20 right now. It's just why there's also institutions buying XRP ETFs in the future more than Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs, because they can buy Bitcoin Ethereum ETFs because those are the ones available right now.
The new ETF demand, right? I just think there's more opportunity for people, especially new people getting into the crypto space, to buy XRP over Ethereum and Bitcoin. If you haven't bought it already, XRP might be the solution. All right, I hope this solves some questions in our minds of what is possible, what has Ripple done with the government so far? Can Ripple even gift the escrow to the national government? I just wanted to answer some of these questions. Sometimes you lay in bed and you start to think about this stuff, did I go down this rabbit hole?
I mean, that is too crazy takes for me. I don't think it will happen. It's very good from Crypto Sensei to do that, analysis like this. But this theory is, we still have a lot to go, guys. We have a lot to go. If it happens, every single one of us will be happy. XRP and Ethereum holders, it's happening right now.
Army.
So look at that. XRP holders, it's happening right now. So XRP crypto markets have been doing good lately. So either unstaking Q hits 3.8. What does it mean for Bitcoin price? So yeah, Ether has now hit a lot of unstaking because people expect the prices to rise. But let's focus on XRP task at hand. So while Ethereum is growing, we're still waiting for XRP. XRP prices we still are above $3, which is what people have been asking for. You know, that support level is still strong.
5 crosses over, it's not good. So at this particular moment in time, I can very clearly tell you what we're looking for. You can see a couple candles right there that kind of are holding there. You see it starting to define that and you can get rid of this one, defining that support right there. And as we came down, you can see the testing up here at the resistance, come down. Now we have a support, and it's
like the thing with XRP is it does not go below $3. If it goes below $3, it basically breaks another support. Bank of America and Wells Fargo is in again, what company doing business will stay with a bank charging more money to send overseas? The other banks will have to come on board or lose millions. That's the thing that XRP has the advantage. They save a lot of money to a lot of banks and especially big players, which is why they will most likely win in the end, because people will be forced to join them. If you had the option to save like $10 million or $20 million, if the product works, once they see that the other banks use it, this is where really, you're just forced to join and just save money that way.
Hitting it 4 days in a row and even drop down, push back up. The bulls are finding a line there that they want to push back up, but that 5's coming down. If we have a finishing candle lower than this support at 307.96, I do believe we are going down to the 50 EMA at that point, which would be about 294 at this particular moment in time. So that's kind of what I'm watching for when it comes to this. You can see as we go, if you just kind of look, just check this out, you can see it. Now, if we push back up above the 5 and the 13, we know that the major resistance is going to be right at 332. I've been telling you for weeks now that 332 needs to be broken and confirmed above.
I mean, every time we try to break out there, look at this. The candles are pretty obvious. Every time we try to go for XRP, 3.10 cents, $3.44. How can we reach $4 if we cannot break the first support level? This is the biggest issue I have right now with XRP. It is just, September and October. It's very common for that to happen, and I feel like it's still going to go sideways in those lines before it finally gets a breakout. Anything could happen in crypto, but 99% are waiting for the whales to pump it back to all-time highs, possibly $3.66, which is what most people have been waiting for. So this is the most important factor, is even though, XRP is down today or tomorrow or next week, buying 3,000 more tomorrow. That's nice. But here, look at this. 3.9 is still very, very good as long as it doesn't drop below $3. When I have money in the bank, that's awesome, Danny. So yeah, look at that. It does seem like it's going to move from these patterns for some time. And I haven't seen it go below $3, like maybe 2.9, which was totally normal.
We are in that wait and see moment. And that's why I keep telling you Q4. Everybody's excited about now. I'm excited about Q4, and that's what I'm watching for. That's up to each person, but this is what I wanted to teach you today. I'll say it again. If you haven't gotten over there, get to the webinar today. We got the spots open. First link down.
So yeah, it seems like it's very, very straightforward. XRP is trading sideways because right now, usually historically, we have the October, and we're just waiting for more news. So XRP gigantic, XRP leak. This changes everything. BlackRock secret. So
leak?
I've been calling for BlackRock to list it for such a long time, guys. Probably like what? I've been calling XRP to list the ETF BlackRock to list it for about half a month now, so 2 weeks. But we were hearing a lot about Lord Belgrave. So boardroom tables with men who ran the world money in 2017. I saw something more retailers refused to believe. And this is the big take that, a lot of people took onto about this XRP leak. And I just wanted to go a bit more into depth because it got really popular. So XRP was already 18 cents when I bought in. You know, people are early, and basically what this post means is the finance right now, the future of technology is changing. The future of finance is changing forever in the next few months. And because the technology has finally advanced in 2024, 2025.
I'm starting to make it dramatic.
I feel like we all missed out on XRP. Like if we knew that XRP was going to go to 10,000, you know, or Bitcoin going to 10,000, XRP going to $1, of course, everybody would buy. But I remember the time when XRP was 10 cents, 1 cent, nobody believed in it. People were saying it's going to be here today, gone tomorrow. So just let that sink in. XRP right now is still very early in my opinion. And that's someone saying that missed like 1 cent. And maybe I didn't have much money back then, but would be definitely nice. Like that's a 300x, right? So again, not financial advice, but I feel like XRP right now is still changing hands.
XRP emerges battle-tested, independent, and cleared, ready for...
So yeah, XRP was basically preparing the last 10 years to get where it is today.
Global adoption, you could say global domination. Why? I added the domination. He should have, that's what he should have wrote, right? Why target Ripple publicly when clear fraudsters in crypto walk free? Because the goal wasn't to shut it down. It was to legitimize it internationally without wearing the American tech push label.
So yeah, because of the lawsuit that, you know, they had with XRP Ripple, they had to reveal everything, all their financial, everything that Ripple is right now, everything was made public. And it showed that they are actually building a product. And it looked very good and for them. It looked in their favor when this lawsuit came out. Even though it cost them $500 million, in the end, Ripple is finally profitable.
Building trust where it mattered in foreign central banks and clearing systems. This doesn't mean there weren't internal enemies. Some powerful U.S. institutions and individuals did oppose XRP. Why? Because the ledger is a threat to enhanced entrenched wealth, control, and influence. A neutral global settlement layer removes the leverage they held for decades. The timeline matches the playbook. 2012, early strategic discussions, NDA-bound banker meetings, 2013 to 17, quiet infrastructure build.
So yeah, now Ripple repositioned as the only institutional acceptable crypto infrastructure. So there are others, but the issue is it needs 10 years to become or go to this level where Ripple is now. And you cannot have like partnerships like this. Banks are now finally pushing forward and they are going for it. So Ripple basically wins in that case because it is so early for Ripple. They started building so early. So everything they've been building, all of the stuff is now over and they can finally show their product they've been building for 10 years.
After crypto companies in an aggressive way, because that was the mandate.
So that's why all the banks work with them.
That was bestowed upon them.
If you guys are...
We're seeing a different mandate bestowed on the SEC, where most of the people are the same, just the top dog is different, and it's a totally different scenario. So I don't think that the US hates XRP. I think it was just that the scenario that happened at that time, and the people that were in charge were going in a specific direction. Okay? And now, part 3. If you haven't yet, smash the like. SG discuss.
So look at this. Avi said here, the world believes BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are asset managers. In truth, they form the most powerful in history, hiding under blah blah blah. I feel like a lot of this is like, you know, not true. But the most important factor is there is a big undertapped market for payment processing. This is what is not mentioned in this. There is trillions and trillions of passing through, which cost thousands or probably tens of thousands in transfer fees, guys. And all these payment transfers, when you pay, for example, in a store, they get a percentage, maybe 1%, maybe 0.5%. They get some amount of money each month from the payment processors. And Ripple is trying to enter this market through the banks, because what's the next thing? If we don't spend it in the store, we send the money through the bank. And the banks, you know, have a partnership as well, which costs them a lot of money to send these type of transfers. So Basically, Ripple is trying to clear that. XRP's role is misunderstood. Isn't coin competing with stocks? That's not a thing. It's an antidote, basically. It's trying to change the global finance. I feel like what he's writing here is very dramatic. I don't fully agree with it. It's just my personal opinion. But the most important factor is here, you know, what XRP is trying to do. It's not another coin. It's trying to change what has been stale basically for the last 30 years.
US government was always...
Bitcoin has nothing on XRP. XRP serves a purpose. Bitcoin doesn't really define a purpose like XRP. You know, the thing of Bitcoin is like really always going to be expensive in my opinion is because it's first. When you're first in the line, you're going to be, you know, probably the biggest one, right? You can take the most orders. So Bitcoin, XRP can do it in half the time. XRP is just going to be doing different things than Bitcoin. I feel like Bitcoin will be like the new digital gold. Like instead of people buying gold, it's going to be hard to transfer gold. They will buy Bitcoin. And XRP will be used like a token with a utility that you can check back in 10 years, 20 years. And you're like, oh, XRP has developed a lot. And then it's a win-win, right? So you have a digital gold and then you have a product basically that is going to be alive for many, many years and have infinite money right now.
If you guys are...
So XRP massive update. Look at that. XRP Ripple massive update. Guys, it feels like every single day something new is happening for XRP, but I love Miles G. So let's check this out.
XRP, however, has bounced pretty aggressively multiple times. It is holding up very strong. Altcoins are looking like they're ready to pump here. And the market was just spooked by that PPI data. It came in way...
I feel like always there's some kind of bad news and then the market suddenly like crashed 10, 20%. Like every single time we have a bull run, there's always some sort of bad news. It's insane.
Beyond anyone's expectations. And that happened because of Trump's tariffs. Trump's tariffs have caused imports and certain prices to spike. And that's why PPI was so high. So algorithms, everyone panicked, people panicked. But guess what? They're still going to be cutting rates. That data doesn't really affect the market, honestly, to any major degree. And it was just an overreaction, an emotional overreaction, which dumped Bitcoin. It dumped everything. And if you just take a look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin did dump about 6%. That is a very significant dump. And it took place in a very short period of time. And on top of it, Bitcoin is still holding the support around $117,000.
Again, we're 117K. Imagine, guys, where were we 2 years ago? We were down under 20K. XRP was 40 cents 2 years ago. So when you took it like a step back, when you think about what's happening with the market, it's not even bad at all.
Also, Ethereum still holding this support. Today, we did bounce up a little bit. What we did end up rejecting. Cardano, this thing is looking like it's getting ready to blow. Solana has been...
So what about XRP? This is my most important factor. Is I've been calling the support level is $3. If it goes below $3, it's going to be a problem. But above $3, you know, I'm not really too worried because it tells me people and whales still eat up that pressure. They still eat up and, you know, all of the drops, all the dips, they still keep buying, which isn't too worrying for me. And again, not financial advice, but here, look at here, guys. This support line he built at 3.44. We cannot currently break out over 3.10 cents. If we can at least break out $3.3, which is going to be very hard right now because ever since here, we couldn't do anything, right? It just suddenly dropped. XRP having a purpose, basically a business model, eventually Bitcoin going up and down will have no effect on XRP. Banks doing business will determine XRP's value. Yeah, XRP has a lot of utility that could push it in long term, right? And that is like XRP burns, for example, is a very big thing that a lot of people are waiting for.
So there is progress being made. It's not going to happen right away. It could take some time, but I think they're getting in the right direction. The first most important bullish step that's going to take place is a ceasefire. If there is a ceasefire, the market is going to absolutely love that, and that's going to shock the markets in a very...
So XRP is 2.99 now. I'm still waiting if it goes like 2.9. Like, as long as it keeps kind of above $3, doesn't have to be exactly $3, But that support level, 2.9, 2.95. I mean, 2.9, I start to get worried, to be honest. But 2.96, 2.95 is still okay, because usually what happens is it goes down a few cents and then suddenly whales buy it back, right, when they wake up, especially because it's Sunday. And that's when a lot of, Koreans are still waking up now. They're maybe not trading yet, which is a very big trading volume. Tons of potential here.
Bullish way, because they're going to be forward looking to the peace deal, this war, and there's going to be a lot of deals with Russia and the US. It's just going to be incredibly bullish overall for the economy, for stocks, for liquidity conditions overall. So if we do get some type of ceasefire this week, which that could take place, that's going to be the first step in order for there to be peace, is a ceasefire. I think altcoins are going to start ripping really, really hard. And on top of it, even without this whole ceasefire deal, there is very most likely going to be a massive injection of liquidity with these interest rate cuts that are taking place next month. So the markets are going to be forward looking to the rate cuts, and that is very, very bullish. Overall, XRP is still holding this $3 level like a stone rock. This is looking very, very good. XRP is still holding. Everything considerably is still holding. We have panic.
So yeah, that's what I've been calling, guys. It's not too worrying if it still holds. It's worrying when it seriously drops and can't, it goes basically in a free fall.
The market has sold off and we're bouncing and we're holding. That is a good indication that the market wants to go higher, because
so yeah, even Bitcoin at 117K, I feel like it's just waiting for good news. So I'm not too worried about that, really. XRP hasn't been too worrying. The value money running through XRP, banks buying XRP to move, it means other crypto will have no effect on its dollar versus one XRP value. Yeah, so XRP in the future will get fully automated anyway. It will not react to potentially, the crypto markets. Maybe in 10, 15 years, because right now it's really small. But in, a perfect scenario, it's not even going to react when crypto goes down, because it will have so much utility. I definitely agree to that. It's a good point.
It's not going to be 20.
So XRP holders are about to become the top 1%. And Raoul Paul has been very vocal on XRP and crypto and Bitcoin and crypto markets in general. So we could be seeing basically a new influx of buyers for XRP coming in the next 6 months.
There are incredible companies doing incredible things. And so you need to get your head around everything has changed. It's really hard for value stocks and small companies and whatever the past world looked like to succeed in this new world.
It's hard to get a top, 100% gains. XRP got literally 400% gains.
It's not going to work. This is going to be the fastest growth of technology in all human history. It's going to be the largest change we will ever go through in the shortest period of time.
Much like what Raoul Pal is saying, I believe that you guys need to prepare for the largest boom in productivity the world has ever seen in human history. And
isn't that right now? We are already the largest productivity in the world human history. Right now, as you're watching this video, the world is already productive. So people are calling the world will get even more a productive boom, which basically means the economy is better. It's already here, and Bitcoin showed for it. XRP showed for it. It literally did a 600%.
Yes, I do believe that cryptocurrency is going to be at the forefront of that. More specifically, I think cryptos like XRP and HBAR are going to be at the top of these hedge funds and massive businesses lists in terms of what they want to accumulate in order to be part of this productivity boom. Because cryptocurrency and AI together are going to be what single-handedly changes the way that we look at money, we look at transacting, we look at business, we look at pretty much everything. And I gotta say, with what Raoul Pal shares in today's video, it's shocking. And I think it's gonna teach you guys a few things you probably never really thought of before on how we can think about the future of productivity, investing, and business. So
I just feel like that right now with the economy getting better, productivity is going to get better anyway, because people will get better jobs. So it's not that much of a worry for me. As long as inflation doesn't really go bad, Ripple is going to do its own thing. It's going to keep going profitable, and it's just going to join in the market, right? It's just going to go in there and take a small bit of the market chunk. It doesn't have to be, the next Amazon. It can just coast on its way to $10, $15 until it figures out what it wants to do.
With all of that being said, please smash that like button so everyone in the XRP army sees this video. Let's get into it.
For the young cohort about how cryptocurrency, this was back in 2016, was going to be one of the answers to get them out of this trap. And the baby boomers had more complexities around how they were going to evolve and survive around this situation. I've talked a lot about the rise of digital assets, and then I brought in obviously the everything code thesis of how debasement is driving a lot of this, and this is our enemy, an 8% debasement a year, plus let's say a 3% inflation rate. We've got an 11% hurdle rate on our investments, which the S&P 500 doesn't even do. Once trust broke down with the institutions and the system itself after 2008 and 2012 in Europe, that was the birth of Real Vision. The idea was to educate people in that. As I moved forwards, I started realizing the profound effects, this baby boom generation, the fact that assets are driven further and further out of most people's reach.
And just more money in this world, right? Which is another reason why XRP pumped so much.
And that there was a young cohort and an old cohort that was really going to face a lot of problems. So we have to be very careful in how we protect our wealth or create wealth. That's based on all of these premises. But there's something much bigger that wraps the whole lot together, and that's the theory of the exponential age. Again, when I came out with the exponential age in 2020, people thought I was nuts. I'm like, this is going to be the fastest growth of technology in all human history. It's going to be the largest change we will ever go through as a species in the shortest period of time. And people thought I was being dramatic. Then AI came, and now the robots are coming. And now everyone's trying to figure out what this means for systems.
Also, like XRP has its biggest technology per and had the biggest partnerships the last 2 years. So that's another thing that, he didn't mention is why XRP grew so much is the lawsuit over payment processing. And it's not just AI that's growing, just technology in general. Like last 1 year, 2 years is where it really, I at least felt a boom.
Society, how this all works, how to regulate it, what to do, but it's moving at lightning speed. By the time this video comes out, I don't know, maybe ChatGPT, I think the strawberry model, the large model comes out. That's coming out very soon. Again, that'll be another step change. We know there's more releases coming from Google, but really we're already hearing that OpenAI probably trained ChatGPT 5 or ChatGPT Next as it's called, which is a quantum leap yet again, as big as the leap from ChatGPT 1 to ChatGPT 4, when we're getting closer to something like artificial intelligence. And so this video is really about why you've got 6 years left to make as much money as possible before everything we kind of understand about economics, markets, business falls apart. And I can't see beyond.
So yeah, is he calling for a collapse in 6 years? That's what I was wondering, because I feel like even during bear markets, XRP will keep building until its next bull run.
On that, so I call it the economic singularity. So I think we've got about 6 years for that. It's not a doom date, well, this date it all happens, but it's beyond about 2030 when things are going to become not understandable by using the existing frameworks of economics, financial analysis, markets, and that kind of stuff. Most people look at AI, the rise of AI, and think of it again in societal terms. What does it mean for humans, for jobs, and all of that? But I think there are more profound implications that come faster that we need to be aware of, and that's the economic singularity. So GDP growth in the magic formula is driven by population growth, productivity growth, and debt growth. So population growth in all of the developed world, including China, we've got falling, aging demographics. Many populations are now shrinking. The US, due to immigration, is just holding its head above water.
And XRP just being in USA is another, pump factor. By being it set up in US, it has all the productivity and all the gains advantage. It's already expanding worldwide.
But the rate of change of population is collapsing everywhere. So that means that the economic driver of population growth has disappeared. Now, we've seen that in GDP because trend rate of GDP has been falling and falling and falling. And it's gone from, in the US, from 4% to 1.75%. And across the rest of the developed world, it's fallen even further, in most cases below 1%, matching population growth collapsing in those regions. The other side of the equation is productivity growth. Productivity growth is basically units of output per...
Yeah, John. So another thing that's coming is basically rate cuts. We will be hearing more news on that. So October is where I really think this will really change. Japan's 80% of banks use XRP. Like it is in testing phases. And that's where really the boom could happen.
Kilojoule of energy, or in other words, what you get out of your cost of electricity. So if electricity is the kind of the energy that makes the world go round, the economic energy, then we need to see what we get out of that energy. So technology has been the big driver of productivity, but the problem is as populations get older, they become less productive. So it's really been a battle, and technology has not won that battle for quite some time. Then we've had debt growth, and I've talked extensively about debt growth. Debt growth basically stops in 2008, and all debt growth is now is servicing of old debts. So that economic engine's disappeared. If you think about the Chinese economic miracle, that was a massive population of, at the time, I think it was 1.1 billion people back in the mid-90s. And what they did was come into the global labor force. The economy of China opened up. That's a massive GDP push. Productivity, well, they built the roads, the railways, the power plants, and all of the stuff that makes China what it is today. That was a productivity boost. And then they increased debt as well. So we had a huge economic boom in China, which we're now paying back with aging population. And we've also got a huge problem on the debt side.
Like that's what XRP is doing, right? It's setting up for the future.
So what we're encountering right now at this point in history, at this very moment, is growing liquidity, growing M2, lowering of interest rates, and a productivity boom all essentially happening at the same time. And this is something that is insane. And this is particularly why Raoul Pal has been saying for the last few years now that 2030, beyond that, we don't know what things are going to look like anymore, because there's not going to be the need for, customer service agents or sales representatives or, even in many cases, lawyers or secretaries or assistants.
I'm not that bullish on AI as I'm bullish on just the knowledge evolving. Like what I mean is XRP having faster transfers with the banks, which are in test phases right now, is going to be probably more influential for XRP, all these bank partnerships, because if you have faster transfers, it also means you don't have to wait 2 days to, for example, complete a service. Yes, AI will definitely help, but there is a big influx that, could help way more. So XRP is just getting started. And again, it's also a lot of good news. Like overall, it's not just one good news. It's like 10 of them that really help crypto and growing, making it explode.
Accumulating XRP consistently, accumulating HBAR consistently right now is the perfect remedy for this, because beyond 2030, beyond this point in time, I don't think that fiat currency will be used like it is today. I think cryptocurrency is going to lead absolutely everything, and so it's up to us today to invest into...
No, I don't agree with that. I've been hearing that for 10 years, that crypto is going to be more used than fiat. Again, fiat is a $40 trillion market. Crypto is like, what, 4 trillion? So fiat is like 200 trillion, is it not? I just feel like everything will be on the chain. Like everything will be digitalized. That is the most important factor. Like when people think about, fiat will not be same like the US dollar, for example. It just means that everything that you already use right now, you're going to stop using cash in the future. You might just use cards, you might use transfers, and that's where XRP comes in, and that's what they're hoping for the future. That's the most important factor. It's not like that, people will start using Bitcoin for payment. That's not the whole point of crypto.
What we believe will be heading the future of all of these financial markets, heading the future of artificial intelligence, heading the future of just technology as a whole, because technology is going to become the single most important thing that will continue to ensure that productivity absolutely skyrockets, especially with populations declining in a massive way all across the world, whether that be in South Korea, Japan, Canada, the United States. Populations are going down, and the only thing that increases the population in most countries, especially developed ones, like Rapa was saying, was immigration. So I'm going to be posting...
So yeah, we also have Tom Lee about XRP in September. This is what I've been telling you guys.
Everyone gets
This is the big news. Tom Lee, urgent. My market prediction was correct. And Tom Lee is always right about XRP.
Area of the market that gets sort of lit up when the Fed gives sort of that all, dovish signal, or, Fed is resuming its cutting cycle. And I think that's things that benefit from liquidity. So that's financials, small caps, and also, believe it or not, Bitcoin. Because I think investors were thinking this is the dog days of August, and that we'd be getting some hawkish inflation data. So I think some of that's just the relief that, in fact, CPI was better than expected. I think it's also just follow through because we've had a pretty decent earnings season, and at the end of the day, the economy is holding up pretty well. And, I'd say that it has a lot to do with the fact that August will probably be a surprise and markets are going to be stronger. I think.
So yeah, I've been calling for October for XRP to basically explode. Again, this is just my opinion, but October is basically called Uptober in crypto, so I'm definitely very bullish on that one.
Ethereum and small caps tend to be correlated. So
I'm not too worried on the long term if XRP drops a bit. I'm more worried if October comes around and if Tom Lee's predictions don't get out right.
To me, 7,500 actually might even be on the low end of what's possible. I think I've seen many targets of 10 to 15,000.
The uncertainty is key here.
So look at here, this one. This is what I wanted to show you guys.
To me is breakaway. And the reason I'm saying that word is that in early July, Bitcoin made a breakaway move, and I think Bitcoin has been leading the markets by a month. So believe it or not, I think that this is the month that the S&P, makes new highs towards 6,500, 6,600.
Interesting. So you think we hit new highs this month? What's the catalyst? Because, we're pretty much through earnings season. So what pushes us higher other than a lot of optimism over a rate cut coming up?
Yeah, so for XRP, it's probably the rate cuts, but there's other stuff as well. It's basically the U.S. government going bullish in crypto. It's the Clarity Act. It's the bank partnerships. It's not just the XRP rate cuts. If you guys been watching my streams, I'm very, I feel like the rate cuts are priced in.
Frank, I think part of it is positioning and sentiment, because I think investors were thinking this is the dog days of August, and that we'd be getting some hawkish inflation data. So I think some of that's just the relief that, in fact, CPI was better than expected. I think it's also just follow through because we've had a pretty decent earnings season, and at the end of the day, the economy is holding up pretty well. And I'd say that it has a lot to do with the fact that August will probably be a surprise and markets are going to be stronger.
All right. But I'm going to guess that BitMiner might be your pick today. It's a company that you're involved with. I want to talk to you about Ethereum and also BitMiner.
Yes. Well, Ethereum, has probably become the surprising sort of hit for cryptocurrencies this year because it's up 28%, outperforming Bitcoin.
It's outperforming Bitcoin, so it's outperforming that, but XRP outperformed Ethereum and Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure together it's up 450%. Those ones are 90 and 72 this year. So yeah, it outperformed by 100%.
But, in some of the work we've done, we believe it's the biggest macro trade over the next 10 to 15 years. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that stable coins have really become the ChatGPT moment for crypto. And now we have the Genius Act and Project Crypto from the SEC, which is Wall Street essentially running onto the blockchain. But one of the best ways we believe to sort of have exposure is through Ethereum treasuries. And that's a company like BitMine, which I've become chairman recently.
So when we're talking about Ethereum, it's one cryptocurrency. Stablecoins are obviously in the news, especially with the Circle IPO and Circle just reporting its earnings and offering more shares. And then you mentioned this Bitcoin as well. Why are you so bullish on Ethereum? What are the opportunities you're seeing in Ethereum in particular?
Well, Ethereum is the second largest blockchain, and it's different than Bitcoin because with Bitcoin, you can't really do programmable contracts.
So that's why XRP is so important, because it literally has payment processing. It's working on payment processing, and it's doing all the stuff that Bitcoin might never do. Doesn't mean Bitcoin is worse. It just means it has different uses.
So smart contracts. Wall Street needs to find a stable and legally compliant blockchain to work on. The majority of stablecoin creations are taking place on Ethereum. And when you look at where JP Morgan is building a lot of its layer 2s or Coinbase or Robinhood, they're choosing to do it on Ethereum. So it is the place where Wall Street is essentially financializing the system.
All right. So, by the way, you're not the only bullish person or bullish company when it comes to Ethereum. We're just looking right now. Standard Charter raising its year-end target for Ethereum to 7,500 from 4,000. Right now, Ethereum's trading right around, I believe, 4,700. Are you this bullish, 7,500 by year-end?
I think that's within the realm of expectations. Ethereum, I think first needs to clear its prior highs of around 4,800. It's within 6% of that now.
Like XRP already did that. It's already at all-time highs and over. But inflation-wise, XRP is all-time high personally is $4.2. Inflation, if we account inflation from 2017, right? So XRP is already close to this and could be pushing super soon to that.
Believe it or not, Bitcoin's obviously been making many new all-time highs this year, but Ethereum is still below its 2022 highs, 2021, 2022. So I think once it clears that level, I think Ethereum and small caps tend to be correlated. So to me, 7,500 actually might even be on the low end of what's possible.
Really?
I think I've seen many targets of 10 to 15,000.
All right, one more time before we get out of here. You're known for your granny shots. Can you give us one of your granny shots right now with the fact that we have the markets trading at all-time highs, the S&P and the NASDAQ, again, closing at record highs yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think really one of the granniest of our granny shots is NVIDIA. It's still one of the most important companies. Well, it's probably the most important company in the world. And in terms of forward multiple at 30 times, it's actually still reasonably priced. I believe its PE multiple is still ranks number 38. There are 37 stocks in the S&P 500 with a higher PE than NVIDIA.
Embracing an unyielding enthusiasm.
Could a lot of like XRP investors from Wall Street come to XRP because of the payment processing deals? That would be a huge, huge partnership.
For the Bitcoin realm, Hugin confidently predicts that explosive growth is looming on the horizon, as BlackRock and many other...
So he's calling for 7,500 Ethereum, which basically means that XRP should be hitting $7 or $6 by his predictions. If we look at the market cap, because he's basically calling for almost double of Ethereum's market cap, which means that would be around right now if XRP would follow Ethereum about $6 to $7. Now, even if it's $5, I would be very happy with that.
Crypto giants are doing just that. Hugin reassures that a long-expected surge
Another
awaits
thing he says
as
here.
we head into the second quarter of 2025. Now we'll hear Tom Lee break down what implications the Fed rate cuts have and the current risks the market faces.
The stock market is basically flat. So we had a down open. I think investors bought that dip. Part of it is I don't think that the PPI is sending a message that inflation's soaring. There are some things to sort of cut out of that number.
Sure.
As we think about the rest of this year and next year, I think that the thing that's the worst case for investors is Fed hiking. If the Fed does nothing between now and year end, I think some would actually argue that's half full because the economy can handle these higher rates. But if the Fed does 25 or 50 between now and year end, really to normalize real interest rates, that's actually positive for stocks. So I think unless this was going to bring in the odds of a hike, I think that's why markets had a muted reaction.
Well, what if they don't do anything?
The economy doesn't seem to be suffering under the weight of these current interest rates, even though the Fed is much higher than the rest of the world on policy rates. And the second part of that is, of course, that if the Fed does 25, it's still a dovish move. I think the market reaction, of course, is really how people are positioned. And
so interest rate cuts, in my opinion, are already, priced in. If they do 25, this will not boost the prices that much. But even if we see a 50 basis points cut, that would definitely boost XRP. And that's what people are waiting for in October, September. These would be the effects we would be seeing right now. XRP has already seen that even in a bearish market. Again, the lawsuit's over. There's a lot of things that are pumping XRP. It's not just the interest rates, guys. We are hearing news every single day. And that is why XRP doubled down by buying a $200 million company. Ether serves a purpose, growing more in percent than Bitcoin. XRP would be well more if basically lawsuits didn't slow it down either. But lawsuits also tested it how it would perform. This is the case use of XRP is basically XRP will always have a use case, and it's now finally profitable since 2024, which makes it go higher now because people know even if there's a bear market that XRP will still be building and will not go bankrupt.
Expecting a really hot PPI number, thought this was going to start a decline in stocks, and that's why I think markets didn't fall as much, because I think many people have been positioned for a sort of a hot set of PPI numbers. You know, last week we said the breakaway move would be S&P 65, 6,600. So I think that's still intact. I don't think that one data point is enough to change a thesis around the trajectory of inflation. And our base case remains that this is going to be ultimately viewed as transitory by the market.
But we have this tension that exists. Labor market looks like it's weakening, and now the inflation market looks like it's at best just kind of staying where it is, if not getting a little bit more sticky. I mean, that is a real tension that the Fed has to deal with and may ultimately have to make a decision on one side or the other. We think we know which way they'd lean, but we're not entirely clear. I'm not sure the market is either.
Yeah. Well,
like, this is the thing. There is no cap, you know, there is no limit how high the crypto could go. And I feel like it's going to be way different than 2021 because now we have the government on our side. It is on so many factors on how much XRP will go more. I go double into detail, you know, on all XRP news, and I check what is happening inside XRP space. And if these billionaires are bullish, then I'm going to join XRP as well, because they probably have more assets, more people hired, and know more than me on where XRP will go from here. So I did my own research. Again, this stuff is not financial advice, but it definitely tells you very clearly that if the productivity is high, if people have jobs and, you know, interest rate cuts, this means the economy is better, which also means they have more money to buy XRP. Along with the partnerships, which are great news, along with everything else, it does seem like a lot of people want to reinvest this money that they get from the jobs, and they're going to reinvest it maybe in Bitcoin. But here's the thing, Bitcoin is bought out by institutions. So what's the next thing you could buy? Ethereum and XRP.
With a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs. Lee highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem.
So yeah, the markets have changed forever basically now from this news. It's because XRP right now has been getting from the worst case scenario to the best possible case scenario. That's why it saw 400%. It literally grew more than Ethereum and Bitcoin, and it might grow more in the future as well. But, you know, Tom Lee has been very vocal about it. We're about to see a bullish acceleration in Bitcoin and crypto.
Bitcoin at the price they deserve.
Like, look at that. Crypto right now has been growing, but these two had ETFs, right? And now with the XRP ETF I feel like that's more bullish for me than the rate cuts that we're going to be seeing. This is the reason why companies are buying right now Bitcoin and Ethereum, is the main reason they can buy it, because they are listed under ETFs. It's a lot easier to buy than going on an exchange. So you can see here that there's going to be a big inflow, and in my personal opinion, this could be 1 to 3 billion inflows coming into XRP.
Capital for the long term. Now, here's the punchline. Literally, right after Trump signs this executive order. Now, obviously, Harvard could have purchased the Bitcoin a long time ago. It was disclosed recently. I'm not saying this was a direct reaction to Trump. But this was the biggest punchline I'd seen.
No.
It was like, okay, I'm living in a city that's literally eating itself. Our pensions own a bunch of crap because they own a bunch of commercial real estate that's marked down 85, 90%, and they own a bunch of bonds.
XRP will go up, but it will take time. Bitcoin, Ethereum didn't got to thousands in hours or days. It took a lot of time, say months to years coming up. Definitely. You know, this is the thing. XRP took 10 years to get partnerships where it is at right now.
They're down 5 years in a row.
Thank you guys for smashing
that like. The fact that the pensions are in trouble makes the city in trouble, and the fact that the city's in trouble, the pensions are in trouble, and they're finding more money to give to the pensions. And here's the punchline, guys. What's the way out? What's the only way out? Let's go back to this. It's step 3 is the problem. The money they have is losing value. Listen,
They're going to reinvest this money into XRP ETFs. Like, we're already going to be seeing that.
You cannot get out of this if you keep buying bonds. Like, the bonds are dead. The 60/40 portfolio is dead. These endowments, these pensions, these sovereigns, they have to start owning something else. This, I cannot overestimate how big of a deal it is that Harvard bought over $100 million worth of Bitcoin exposure.
$100 billion. Even Harvard bought it. Again, Harvard, the college, bought Bitcoin. So would they buy XRP if this was an ETF? Who knows? But 116 million in it, 116K, a very high price. And whales are buying now at $3 above. This is a very bullish indicator that it wants to go higher. If people buy at $3, again, not financial advice, is a good indicator that people want to get it at even more, right? Especially if they buy such big amounts that it doesn't even drop below $3 or $2.75 or whatever it is. It's still a very bullish indicator.
Mallers highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem. He also suggests that BlackRock, under the guidance of Larry Fink, leads the charge in obtaining regulatory approval for Bitcoin ETFs. Moves like this, he contends, will underscore Bitcoin's enduring relevance as an asset and its potential as a hedge against currency devaluation.
Pensions, endowments, sovereign wealth funds are buying Bitcoin because you cannot sustain and survive on bonds. You cannot sustain and survive on a portfolio basket index of stocks.
I feel like, yeah, if you really want to be, like, a lot of rich people are buying bonds and stocks because they give 7% a return and they're much safer. That's why a lot of retail has pumped into Bitcoin, XRP, and Ethereum, is because, yeah, it's 10 times more, maybe even 20 times more risky, maybe even 50 times more risky. But with the expenses right now, people are looking for fast gains. Like, a lot of people don't have a lot of time anymore. So the XRP holders, you know, they finally rallied 600%. So if we divide 600% divided by 7%, so it would take about 85 years to get where, if you put it into index funds. And I'm not saying index funds are bad. I think they're actually better than the XRP. I'm just saying if it gives like 8% a year, the stock market, literally XRP gave about 450 this year and 600% like in the last year and a half. That is 56 years that you would need to wait in the stock market, you know, to go 4x. So just let that sink in, like in the safe environment, which is 7% a year.
And the magnitude of what this means for both Bitcoin and all of our future is profound. This is absolutely a new monetary era.
That's why a lot of people went into XRP.
The amount of capital that has to flow into Bitcoin and find a new home is profound. And this is no longer speculative. On this show, I spend months, you know, I really think so. You know, if I ran a pension, you know, if I were in charge of funding.
And exactly, the XRP is a business model that they're working on. These payment transfers is still going to keep working on the next 10 to 20 to 30 years. Basically like a company, especially if they go online with the Ripple IPO in 2025.
Teachers in Chicago. But now we're living it. That's an executive order from the President of the United States. That is the most prestigious university, not only in America, in the world, that has $100 million+ Bitcoin position. So again, another massive deal that if you were to tell me a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have never believed you. Fed quietly publishes bombshell article discussing gold revaluation. The idea has come up in the context of helping to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve or a sovereign wealth fund. So the Fed went out and published an article that talked about revaluing the gold on their balance sheet. You know, obviously with Bretton Woods, we marked gold at $35 an ounce. Gold is no longer $35 an ounce. The price, obviously in the free market, floats freely. The dollar has gotten debased, and the Fed specifically noted.
So yeah, it's also hard to transfer gold, right? Are you going to transfer like 10 million gold on a plane, or let's say 200 million. With Bitcoin, you could just send it, right? With XRP, it's going to be on the ledger itself, on the XRPL, which is where the big amount of money comes in.
The data. Let's get into the scoreboard. You know, this isn't just talk. There's action here. There's data. There's proof of work. This is Bitcoin and gold risk-adjusted returns. Look at all of this crap over here. Look at this. Long-term treasuries. That's what's funding my police workforce. Why is that our savings account? Look at this crap. It does. It's true. There is no second best. When you understand Bitcoin, it's not 1% of your portfolio. I can't stand when people say...
So look at that. It literally gives more returns than Bitcoin right now. So XRP would be even on top of Bitcoin. So yeah, I feel like that he is very bearish on the stocks, but the real thing is, yes, like stocks shouldn't be forgotten about. They're still very strong gainers and they will definitely move in the markets. But there are returns like XRP. You got to realize that this XRP was super risky, but it paid off. And it's definitely paying off more than gold. So here's the thing. Long-term treasuries are just like short-term. U.S. real estate, unless the real estate rises in value, you know, people are going to be buying it. Real estate is becoming expensive. So people want to have something that's going to grow and, you know, develop its knowledge as well. Bitcoin doesn't do that. Bitcoin is a great store of value, but it's not really, you know, developing anything while it exists. It just stays there. But XRP is kind of like, you know, buying it, it's growing in value, and then it also has utility that the companies and banks will be forced to use with the lower payments. So yeah.
Either you're an idiot or you're a liar, because you either don't understand Bitcoin and you're lying that you've spent the time that you do, or you're an idiot. And when you found the winner, when you found the solution, you took 1%. Why would I allocate 99% to the loser? Explain that to me, smart man.
So he's saying they're just going to buy 1%. The thing is, Bitcoin and XRP are still super risky. So a lot of people will still hold their stocks. But slowly and more surely, like we went from people holding 1% of XRP to holding 5% of XRP. That is rising. More people are holding more amount of crypto now. It's becoming more safer.
You can't just...
So yeah, this is what's happening right now is crypto is getting stronger, faster, and better, and it's getting more stable and becoming the future. So guys, thank you so much for smashing that like button. I really appreciate you all. If you want more videos, check out my channel. I'll be making more videos there. I'm going to upload a new video right now as I'm making this. So yeah, thank you so much. I'll be live tomorrow as well. So be sure to come back tomorrow. And peace, everyone. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining the stream. A bit tired, so again, ending it early. Last few days, you can see I'm pale. I have no sleep, but I'm going to fix that. I'm going to make more streams, possible streams. Going to be amazing. Peace.